serve, the communities that we impact every single day of our lives. The definition of a hero that the world would have us to believe is that heroes are ordinary people that do extraordinary things. And this morning I shared with you that that's absolutely not true. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it is my belief that heroes are extraordinary people who choose not to be ordinary. And I want to introduce you this afternoon to some of the heroes in my life and paint a picture for you of how you can incorporate these ideas into your business and make a difference in your life. The first thing that I told you about heroes, the first thing that I noticed about the difference makers in the world today is that heroes help people. How many of you would agree with that? Heroes help people, and listen, on the surface, I know there's nothing exciting about that. In fact, I know you're all sitting there right now going, wow, Kevin, that's really pretty basic stuff. I mean, helpful. I mean, we're the $1 Million Roundtable, Kevin. We're pretty helpful people. We're kind of known for being helpful. I hope you have more than that, and I do. You see, everybody on the planet knows that being helpful is good for business. We know that being helpful is the way we grow our business and we connect with our clients. We draw people in by helping them. But heroes understand that there's a part two to this idea of being helpful. There's a ... if you will. Heroes help people ... with no strings attached. You see, it's the no strings attached part that some of us have trouble with. It's the no strings attached part that we really don't get our minds around because we're used to the conditions of all of our relationships, the transaction, if you will. We like the rules of engagement. I'll do this for you if you do this for me. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. And what I've learned, ladies and gentlemen, look, you can go to everybody's website. All of your competitors, we all say the same things. That being helpful is good for business. That being helpful is the gateway to wealth and opportunity. But here's the thing. Only the heroes that I know, the heroes in everyday life, choose to go the extra mile, to reach beyond what is required to do something remarkable. They own that ... They own that extra mile. And when I think about the heroes in my life, the very first person that I thought of, the very first person who I thought of who always goes the extra mile is a young lady named Rebecca. Rebecca cuts my hair. I'm going to preface this story by telling you I've had bad hair my whole life. I've been told by people with advanced degrees in hair care that my hair is very difficult hair to cut. Texture is somewhere between straw and barbed wire. It cannot be cut the same way twice, I'm told. I was on a string of bad haircuts for a solid year. Anybody ever had a bad haircut? Anybody? A couple of you need to go ahead and put your hand up. I was on a string of bad haircuts for a solid year. After every haircut, I would come home and I would complain to the most amazing and positive person I know, and that's my wife. After a year of bad haircuts, listening to my moaning and groaning and complaining, my wife had all she could handle. She decided to take matters into her own hands, and she talked to the person who does her hair, and she got a referral for someone new, Rebecca. She called and made the appointment. She told me what time to be there, and I showed up, and ladies and gentlemen, I've never seen anything like it. There were flat screen TVs on the walls, people in the chairs, people in the waiting area. There was hair flying everywhere. This place was really busy. In the back of the salon was a young lady, long brunette hair and giant blue eyes. She turned and she flashed this gorgeous smile. She stopped what she was doing and she made her way to the front of the salon. When she got to the front of the salon, she put her hand out and she shook my hand. She says, "My name's Rebecca, you must be Kevin." I said, "I am, how did you know?" She said, "Your wife described the haircut." She took me back to her station and she sat me in her chair. And before she said another word to me, she began to massage my shoulders. And I liked it. A lot. Then she started to ask me about my life. She said, "Your wife sounds nice. Her name's Lisa, right? How long have you been married? Do you have any children? Where do you work? How long have you been there? Are you any good at it?" She's massaging my shoulders and asking me about my life. Ladies and gentlemen, she drew me in with a simple smile. But then she went to work on that ... She made me feel like I was the only person in the room. Question. Do you make the people that you say are the most important to you feel like the only people in the room? Or are you so busy chasing the next thing you've got to check off your list that you miss this moment and the people in it? Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my experience that we race through life, checking things off our list, taking the next meeting, making the next call, doing the next thing that we have to get done, that we miss this moment and the people in it. We're preoccupied with what happened yesterday and what might happen tomorrow, and we miss the people that we serve in this space right here. You see, this 22-year-old never texted, tweeted, or posted anything. I know 50-year-olds who can't pull that off. You see, technology is a really important tool to transacting business, but technology should never become a replacement for human connection. Albert Einstein said, when technology surpasses human interaction, we will have a generation of idiots. Nailed it. He was talking about us. You see, technology is beautiful for growing our businesses, for making it easier for our clients to do business with us, but technology should never replace the relationships that we have with one another. Connecting truly at the cellular level here, not here. This 22-year-old never texted, tweeted, or posted anything. She didn't talk to the person to her right or to her left. She never left this moment right here with me. When she was done here, she took me over to this sink where she washed my hair. And when she washed my hair, I forgot my name. I liked it a lot. When she got done here, she took me back over to her station and she sat me in her chair. She put a cape over me and she turned the chair away from the mirror and she started cutting. She was cutting and we were laughing. I was having the time of my life. Cut it all off. I don't care. When she finally got done cutting, she put her scissors down and she stepped back. She looked at me and she was proud of the work that she had done. She came up and she spun the chair around so that I could face the mirror and see the work that she had done. And when she spun the chair around, she pulled the cape off and she said, "There you go, Mr. Delicious." Ladies and gentlemen, the first thought I had was, please say it again. Please say it again. Nobody's ever called me Mr. Delicious. I wanted her to say it again. You understand? She drew me in with a simple smile, but then she went to work on the ... She made me feel like I was the only person in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, my question, do you make the people that are the most important to you feel like the only people on the planet? Or are you so busy moving to the next thing that you miss them and everything in it? Nobody's ever done that for me before. Nobody's ever washed my hair. Nobody has ever treated me with such respect and pulled me in and made me feel like I was their only priority for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, you understand I will never, ever go anywhere else for a haircut. Listen, I will never, ever go anywhere else for a haircut. I have followed Rebecca to 4 salons. See, you understand the condition of our relationship. The contract that we had with each other was that I would pay her money and she would cut my hair. That was our deal, the contract. This 22-year-old transcended the condition and made a connection. And when you make a connection, ball game. When you make a connection, it changes everything. We adopted Rebecca and her husband Scotty into our family. They're like our own children. They have 2 sweet little babies, Lily and Lakeland. They're like our own grandbabies. Ladies and gentlemen, when you do business with and for family, it changes everything. I have followed Rebecca I have followed her to 4 different salons. I drive by 20 salons just to get to her, and I don't consider the others an option. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that what you want for your business? To be the choice, not a choice. To be the choice. Mdrt family, isn't that what we want? Yes. To see most people, your competitors, most people in your space, they're content to be a choice. To be a faceless entity in a sea of sameness. To show up and do the minimum required to get by. To be an ordinary person. To not show up and give their extraordinary best. You see, most people are content to be a choice. To carve out their little corner of the market. To carve out their little piece of the pie. Give me a break. You carve out your little piece of the pie, ladies and gentlemen, you'll spend the rest of your career clinging to it for dear life. Thank you very much. You'll spend the rest of your life clinging to it. You'll spend the rest of your life trying to hang on to it because there are people who are coming for your business. You understand this? You see, there is no staying the same. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't get to the pinnacle. You can't get to the peak and expect to stay there without working really hard to stay there. You see, what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is when you become the best at what you do, and the people in this room are, in fact, the best at what they do. You know that, and I know that. Your competitors know that. Your competitors know that you can't be touched unless you let your guard down. You see, there's always going to be an up-and-comer. There's always going to be somebody new. There's always going to be somebody that wants to take your best clients and your best employees from you. You see, the minute you let your guard down, they know that they've got a shot. There was one day when you were chasing the big dogs, right? There was one day when you were chasing the best of the best in the business, and you said, I want what they have. I want to be the best of the best, and you chased them down. You see, there is no staying the same. You can't carve out your little piece of the pie and expect to stay there. You see, the great ones want the whole pie. The great ones don't want a sliver of the pie. They want the whole pie. They want to serve more people more often in bigger and better ways. They want to take their formidable talents, gifts, and abilities, those things given to you at birth that makes you special. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it's my belief that the moment that you were put on this earth, you understand. Let's do a little biology lesson. You understand that science tells us the day you were dropped off at the pool, there were 100 million other kids dropped off at the same moment. Are you with me? If the people next to you look confused, explain it to them. I'll say it again. Science tells us the day you were dropped off at the pool, there were 100 million other kids dropped off at the very same moment. And once you got your bearings, you started making your way through the crowd. Moving past everybody else, you hit your stride like an Olympic swimmer. You made your way through the crowd. And you got here first. 100 million opportunities for somebody to walk this planet, and it turned out it was you. Created with talents, gifts, and abilities as unique as your fingerprints. And yet somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you that you were ordinary. Talk about tragic. You see, the great ones show up every day with those talents, gifts, and abilities, and they carve out a little more of that pie. They carve out just a little bit bigger sliver. They carve out more clients. They're never content with where they are. They know they've got to keep climbing. They've got to keep growing. They've got to keep building themselves because they can't give what they don't have. You see, the same thinking that got you here will not get you to the next level. The same thinking that created the business you enjoy right now will not take you to the next level. There's always something new that we have to learn. Chris Helder said it this morning. Are there any new ideas? Absolutely, there are new ideas. Maybe not new to somebody else, but maybe new to you, and maybe it's one of those ideas that will take you to the next level. You see, Rebecca became a permanent member of my family. We made her a part of our family because she treated me completely different than anybody had ever treated me in the past in that environment. And my experience with Rebecca, ladies and gentlemen, this was a powerful moment for me, a teaching moment for a guy who had been in business for over 32 years. A guy who helped build a company that did over $2 billion a year. A guy that thought he knew everything. And this 22-year-old hairdresser taught me something new that day. She taught me that it doesn't matter that you have all this fancy stuff. It doesn't matter all of the accolades that you've received. It doesn't matter how much success you've had in your life. If you cannot stand in this moment and give the people in it the best version of you, you have no right to be there with them. You see, my experience with Rebecca reminded me of something that Oprah said. When Oprah retired from her show to start a network because she needed more money, they sat her down and they asked her one question. They said, Oprah, you've interviewed 35,000 people in your lifetime. 35,000 people in your lifetime, that's a lot of people. Oprah, we're curious. Did you notice anything that they all had in common? Was there a through line, a common thread, something that all of these people had in common? And without batting an eyelash, she said this. She said, absolutely. Everybody I've ever known in my whole life, everybody that I've ever interviewed, rich, famous, known, or unknown, from Bush to Obama to Beyonce and all of her Beyonce-ness, they were all seeking validation. They were all seeking validation. She said, listen, when the lights went off and the cameras quit rolling, without exception, every single one of them, 35,000 people, they leaned over and they whispered, how did I do? Did I do okay? They wanted to know that they had shined in Oprah's moment. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we never outgrow this need to be validated for the people that we are and the work that we do. But then she attached 3 questions. She said, everybody I've ever known in my whole life, they were silently asking 3 questions. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Does what I say even matter to you at all? Mdrt family, I would submit to you that everybody in your life, at work and at home, they're all asking the same 3 questions. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Does what I say even matter to you at all? Or am I just noise in an already noisy world? Am I just something that you have to contend with to get through your day? Ladies and gentlemen, trust me when I tell you this. There is competition for every relationship in your life. There is competition for the minds of your children. Do not leave it to what's on the other end of the earbuds. There is competition for the love and affection of your significant other. There is competition for every single client you serve and colleague that you serve with. And when you don't own this space right here better than anybody else, you leave the door open for somebody to take them from you. I'm not telling you what I think, I'm telling you what I know. Heroes help people with no strings attached. Second thing that I know about heroes. Heroes create an exceptional experience for the people they serve. Exceptional every single day. Exquisite. When they show up to do what they do, if they put their name on it, it will be done to a level of excellence that most people don't even aspire to. They care about this little thing called reputation. You know, ladies and gentlemen, reputation. That thing that goes before you and announces your arrival and lingers long after you leave. The question is, what lingers after you leave? You see, I go to these conferences. I do 200 events a year, and I go to conferences and I see the best of the best doing what they do, and I'm amazed at how many people never actually see the people walking around them. We have our heads down in our phones. We're distracted. And even worse, when we do see somebody, we can't even muster up a smile. You see, we're all in sales, aren't we? Are we in sales?
Yeah.
You better believe we are. Listen, if I told you I wanted to push all of my financial services business to you, would you find a way to smile at me? Oh yeah, you would. You see, sometimes we forget the basics of human kindness, the basics of human connection. Heroes create an exceptional experience for everybody in their life. They know that every moment of their life is showtime. They care about reputation. Listen, I live in airports. And I'm absolutely convinced that 50% of the world's population do not have mirrors in their homes. Y'all understand what I'm saying? They roll off the assembly line in the morning, and they don't think about how they package themselves. They don't think about how they language themselves. They don't think about how they connect or don't. You see, heroes care about how they show up. They know that somebody is always watching them. They're always watching. They want to know, do your words match up with your actions? Does your attitude match up with what you espouse? Do you show up in a way that says, I can help you solve your problems? I can move you from where you are to someplace better. I can help you prepare for the future. I can help you get from where you are to where you want to be. Do you show up? And is that obvious? You see. And I know it is for you because you all look so beautiful. It's one of the things I told my wife. These people get it. They get it at a completely different level. You care about how you look. You care about how you language. You care about the things that you do. Do not ever lose that edge. It's one of the things that makes you different than everybody else, you see. Heroes create an exceptional experience for the people they serve, and they do it by taking 100% responsibility for their life and everything in it. They take responsibility for their attitude, their actions, and most importantly, their results. You see, the rest of the world, people that are different than you, people are too content to push integrity outside of themselves and blame the rest of the world for their lack of success. You see, the people who don't get it, they like to blame everybody else, the weather, the government, the economy, the clients, each other. You see, heroes are the first ones to raise their hand and say, what can I do to create the best possible outcome for the people that I serve? I want to tell you a story. I saw this firsthand. I saw this idea of an exceptional experience. I saw it firsthand when we took our son to Walt Disney World. Any Disney fans in the room? Everybody know what Disney is? Disney is a magical place, people. It's magical because when you go there, your money disappears. That is the magic. To tell you this story, I'm going to introduce you to my son. His name is Josh Brown. If you met him, he would tell you his name is Josh Brown. He thinks it's hyphenated, all one word. Josh has autism. We've known that since he was a very, very small boy. When Josh was 7 years old, he discovered Walt Disney World. And if you know anything at all about autism, you know when these kids get something on their brain, it's the only thing that exists in the whole wide world. For 2 years, my son obsessed about going to Disney. It was the only thing that he wanted to do 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. All he talked about was going to Disney. Dad, 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 please take me to Disney. Dad, I want to go to Disney. Dad, when are we going to Disney? We waited for 2 years. We wanted to make sure that he could enjoy the trip and that it wasn't so overwhelming for me. You see, I'm not a good vacation taker. I never have been. Vacationing for me was just a reason to work from somewhere other than the office. For years, my wife thought she was married to a laptop computer. Oh yes, I would come home in the name of family time. I would sit in my chair, proud of myself. Dog at my feet, boy to my left, wife to my right, laptop open, present, but not accounted for. Lisa made me sign a metaphorical contract. She said, Dad, I need you to show up for 8 days. Dad, I need you to show up and be all in for the trip of a lifetime. For your son, I need you to leave the laptop at home, Dad. I signed the metaphorical contract with a simple yes, ma'am. We packed our bags and we made a list. If you know anything at all about autism, you know these kids like to have everything mapped out. No surprises, no guesswork. My wife's background is accounting and finance. We went to Walt Disney World with an Excel spreadsheet. Everything we were going to do was mapped out by the minute. Rides, parks, meet and greets, everything was spelled out in order. How many of you are list people? You prioritize your list? Yes. You color code your list? You make a copy of the list in case you lose the list? You put stuff on your list that you've already done so you can check it off your list. Yes, that's my wife. We had our list and we packed our bags. We took off and we got to Orlando, Florida, 4 hours ahead of our luggage. Not a big deal, lots to see, lots to do. We had a list, we went exploring. Did a little reconnaissance mission to see how this was all going to play out for Josh Brown's big adventure. Back in our room, the bags finally join us for the trip. It's about 8:30. We're not tired, but we're anxious to get the next day started, so we go to bed. We're laying in bed, our eyes are closed, but nobody's asleep. And it reminded me of the old Disney commercial. There's an old Disney commercial where a little boy is laying in bed the night before his trip to Disney. His eyes are closed, but he's giggling under his breath. And his mom says, honey, you've got to go to sleep. And the little boy says, but I'm so excited. That was me. I was so excited about this trip because I knew how important it was to my son. Bright and early the next morning we got up and I said, Josh Brown, where are we eating breakfast? He said, Dad, we're eating in this hotel. We're going to ease you into this. No lines, no trams. He's a smart boy. He knows his father very well. We head out the door, down the escalators. Now I'm going to make a confession to you. I promised my wife that I wouldn't work on this trip, but I did not promise her that I wouldn't pay attention to what's happening at Disney. I'm in the people business. My clients are in the people business. I'm at the customer service mecca of the entire universe. I want to know how they do what they do. How do they draw you in and make you feel special? How do they create magic over and over and over again? How do they get so much money out of your wallet and make you feel good about it? So I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. As we go down the escalators, we get to the restaurant. The hostess greets us with a giant smile. Welcome, Brown family. We're so glad that you're here. We have a table just for you. And I'm making mental notes. Giant smile. It's a brilliant way to start. Brown family. Don't we love the sound of our own name? Table just for us. How special. She takes us to our table. We sit down. She hands us menus. She takes 2 steps back and she says, Brown family, may I be the first to wish you a magical day. You people are really good. It's really, really good. She leaves and the waitress comes over. The waitress has no expression. She actually looks really mad. She comes over to our table and she looks at my wife and she says, can I get you something to drink? And my wife, Lisa, she says, yes, you can, but I need to tell you my son's on a very special diet. There's lots of things that he can have and lots that he can't have. And before she could say another word, the waitress put her hand in my wife's face. And she said, "Ma'am, I'm not going to be able to take your order. You're going to need to speak to the executive chef." And she disappeared. And now I'm upset. I've got a boatload of money wrapped up in this trip. I have a few expectations. Smiling is one of them. If you could whistle while you work, I would greatly appreciate that a lot. At the very least, you could hum "It's a Small World." From the back of the restaurant comes the executive chef. Easy to spot, big white coat, giant Chef Boyardee hat. She comes out, she gets to our table, and she looks at my son, and she says, "Good morning, sunshine, how are you?" Josh lowered his head and he said, "Good morning." He's really very shy. She said, "My name is B. I understand somebody's on a special diet. How can I help?" She takes a notebook out and she starts writing down everything that Lisa says he can have and everything that he can't. Then she starts asking questions. "What's in that? I've never heard of that. How do you make that? Where do you get that?" Most important question, what's his favorite? She gets done and she puts her notebook away and she looks at Josh Brown and she says, "Okay, sunshine, what's for breakfast?" "Apple pancakes, please." That's his favorite. She said, "Oh, sunshine, I'm so sorry. I don't have the ingredients. Mom told me how to make them, but I don't have the stuff. How about some bacon and eggs and some special toast?" He nodded. She left. Miss Personality came back and took the rest of our order. We ate. We left. We were completely satisfied. There's an important point I want to make about being satisfied. A great friend of mine, her name is Kelly Swanson. She says, "Nobody notices normal." Nobody notices when the people you serve are satisfied. Nobody notices normal, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody notices when you do the minimum required to get by. Nobody notices when the people at home or the people at work are satisfied. Satisfaction doesn't even get you a ticket to the dance. Satisfaction makes you like everybody else. But yet, what do most organizations chase? Satisfaction. Do you have anything in your organization that's chasing satisfaction? Customer satisfaction, client satisfaction, employee satisfaction. Satisfaction makes you like everybody else. Don't you want enthusiastic ambassadors for your brand? Don't you want unpaid spokespeople for your brand? Yes or yes? Exactly. Yet most people are chasing satisfaction. You understand there are only 2 times when people talk about us. There are only 2 times when people talk to other people about you and me, when we exceed their expectations or miss them completely. And guess when they like to talk about you the most? You better believe it. The first time you make a mistake, they're going to capture it and tweet it out to the world in an instant. There was nothing spectacular about our day. We were satisfied, and that was it. Day 2. Josh Brown, where are we eating breakfast? He said, "Dad, I want to go see Aunt B." "Who?" I looked at Lisa. I said, "Who is he talking about?" She said, "The executive chef. Her name was B, B-E-A. He said, "Dad, I want to go see Aunt B." I said, "Brother, we've got a spreadsheet. We're supposed to go somewhere else." He said, "Dad, I want to go see Aunt B." Guess where we went? Out the door, down the escalators. We get to the restaurant. The hostess greets us with a giant smile. "Welcome back, Brown family. We're so glad that you're here. No reservation, no problem. We have a table just for you." I'm sure you do. She takes us to the exact same table we were at the day before. Guess who's working our section? Miss Personality, grumpy. Yes, that's exactly right. She saw that it was us and she didn't even make it to the table. Don't you think somebody at some point during onboarding would have told her she works at the happiest place on earth? She had no clue. She saw that it was us and she went to the back of the restaurant. And from the back of the restaurant emerges Aunt B. She comes out, she gets to our table and she says, "Good morning, sunshine," to which I promptly said, "Good morning." She said, "I'm not talking to you." She looks at Josh Brown and says, "Good morning, sunshine. What's for breakfast?" "Apple pancakes, please." "You got it, sweetheart. Coming right up." I said, "Whoa, time out, Aunt B. Do you remember us from yesterday?" "Yes, sir, I do." "Aunt B, yesterday you didn't have the ingredients." "Sir, why are you calling me Aunt B?" It's a fair point. "Yesterday you didn't have the ingredients." "True. Today you do?" "Yes." "Where did you get them?" "The store." "So you sent someone to the store?" No, sir, I stopped on my way home last night. We have them all over Florida. Anybody can go. I looked at this woman and I asked her probably the dumbest question I've ever asked anybody in my life. I looked at her and I said, why would you do that? Profound answer. I thought that's what he wanted. Let me make a note. Give the customer or client what they want or need, whether we serve it or not. Ball game. Guess where we ate every day for 8 days? When those apple pancakes shaped like mouse ears were slid under my boy's face, from that day to this, I've never seen him smile the way he smiled that day. When we left, we bought a card. Josh Brown signed it. Mom and Dad put money in it. When we got home, we wrote her bosses a letter, and we raved about our experience with Aunt B. We bought another card. Josh Brown signed it. Mom and Dad put money in it. We have bought her birthday presents, Christmas presents. Disney is still costing me a fortune. But isn't it true? We will pay a premium. We will pay a premium for somebody who reaches beyond what is required to do the remarkable. We'll pay a premium for somebody who doesn't get caught up in the blame game. You understand, Aunt B could have just blamed everybody else. She could have just said, hey, why doesn't leadership get me the tools I need to serve special needs kids? Hey, when's that department going to get their act together so that I can better serve my customers? Hey, when's the customer going to read the menu? Have you ever gotten mad at a client? It's okay, they're not here. Isn't it amazing? Sometimes we get mad at the very people who allow us to live the lives that we live. See, she didn't ask any of those questions. Ladies and gentlemen, she asked one really powerful question. She said, what can I do with what I have to create the best possible outcome for this child? Ladies and gentlemen, we ate there every single day for 8 days. Aunt B became a permanent member of our family that day. She created an exceptional experience for the Brown family, one that we will never, ever forget, and she did it by raising her hand and taking responsibility for creating the best possible outcome for us. She didn't blame other people. She didn't play that game. She didn't get caught up in what she didn't have. She took what she had, and she made it spectacular. Aunt B is a permanent member of the Brown family. When Josh was a little boy, we sat in a school conference room. We were sitting around a big mahogany table. He was 5 years old. We were scared young parents. We were there to confirm what we already knew, but were afraid to say out loud. Doctors on one side of the table, teachers on the other. The doctor spoke first. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, your son has autism. You need to ready yourself for the road ahead. It's going to be a steep climb. You need to understand some things about Joshua. Joshua is uneducable in many ways. He will not learn like the other children. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, you need to know that your son probably will not graduate high school. If he does, there will be an asterisk by his name on that diploma, because it won't be a real diploma. It will be a special education diploma. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to be really careful the vision that we cast for the people in our lives. At work and at home, people are all too willing to live up to the vision that you cast for them. I looked over at Lisa and the teardrops were hitting the papers in her lap. I became angry. As a father, I'm embarrassed to tell you where my mind went that day. I immediately started thinking about all of the things my son wasn't going to do. The life that he wasn't going to live. The experiences that he wouldn't have. Listen, he wasn't going to be the star Little League baseball player like his dad was. He wasn't going to be the star quarterback and captain of the high school football team like his dad was not. And while I was over here having a pity party of one, the teardrops dried up. And thankfully, moms get a little something more than dads. Natural-born leaders with natural-born vision, especially when it comes to their babies. She sees that boy not as he is, but as he can be, which is the #1 job of leadership and friendship. She sees that boy for all the hope and promise that was put in him at birth. And then she did what leaders do, ladies and gentlemen. She took the storyline that life gave us, and she started to rewrite it. You see, leaders are brilliant at taking the storyline that life gives us and rewriting it. You see, life's never going to give you the story you want. You understand this? Life's never going to give you the story that you want. Listen, the economy's not going to give you the story you want. The government's not going to give you the story that you want. The competition's not going to give you the story that you want. But she took that storyline that life gave us, and she immediately started to rewrite it. You see, I'm fascinated. How many people take the storyline life gives them, and they get up every day for the rest of their lives, and they walk it out as their truth? She took that storyline, ladies and gentlemen, and she started to rewrite it. She looked at her son and she said, "Cover your ears, son. Don't listen to what he said, Joshua. I heard what he said. Maybe that's not your destiny. You keep your eyes right here. Mom's got a different plan for you. Mom's got a different plan for you, son. You keep your eyes right here. We're not listening to what the world wants to give you. We're going to create our own reality." And for 17 years, ladies and gentlemen, I've had the privilege and the honor of watching this leader with the title of mother do her job. Doing her work, planting that vision in that boy, and then making it grow. I've watched as she's worked, and it's amazing when you have a compelling vision for your life, for your business, for your family, for your community. When you have a compelling vision for your life, it's amazing you begin to attract the resources, the tools, the people, all of the things that you need to bring it forth to reality. For 17 years, I've watched as the teachers, the tutors, the mentors, the guides, the people who have flowed in and out of this boy's life, some for a minute and some for a lifetime. People who showed up and poured themselves unselfishly into him, taking him places he could have never gotten to on his own. And in May of 2016, we were invited to a graduation ceremony. 300 kids would graduate from a little high school in Gallatin, Tennessee. 300 kids. We were there. Mom and I were there. We were in the upper decks. We were watching as 300 kids came through that door. 300 kids marched in single file. They marched in, and we were only looking for one. And we saw him. He was standing in the doorway, 6 feet tall. His cap was crooked. We knew it was ours. And he marched in with his classmates. And he found his seat. Before he sat down, he turned and he found his dad, and he gave me a nod. They started calling names. 300 names were called that night. 300 names. We heard one name the whole night. Joshua Douglas Brown. And when that boy stood up, a chill ran down my spine. I saw a young man stand up with whom I was unfamiliar. A young man who stood up and he steadied his cap and he put his shoulders back and his chin up. And he started marching to that stage with confidence and purpose. Bordering on swagger as he made his way to that stage. As he was walking to the stage, halfway there, he grabbed the honors cords that were draped around his neck. Walking tall and proud, Mom and I made our way from the upper deck. We were standing right there. Cameras locked and loaded, ready to capture the moment when my boy's foot hit the stage. And when his foot hit the stage, I heard the voice of my father. My father, who used to tell me when I was a boy that it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. All that matters is what you believe. You see, the doctors didn't think my son could learn. The teachers didn't think he would graduate, much less with honors. But they underestimated what he believed. And he believed what he believed because a leader with the title of mother was willing to get down in the ditch and do the work. You see, success isn't easy, ladies and gentlemen. Being the best in the world at what you do isn't easy. If it was, everyone would do it. You see, it takes hard work, and you can't bring out the best in other people until you're willing to bring out the best in yourself. You see, they weren't there for the late night study sessions. They weren't there when mother and son couldn't be in the same room together. They most certainly weren't there when my son put his head in his hands and said, "Why doesn't my brain work?" And a leader with the title of mother leaned down and said, "Baby, your brain's just fine. It takes a little more work to be special." He marched across that stage and he shook that principal's hand and he got his diploma. And ladies and gentlemen, there was no asterisks on it anywhere. He walked across that stage and down the stairs. I put my arms out to hug him. And he walked by me to hug his mother. As he should. Driving home, I could see his face in the rearview mirror. He was holding his diploma and he was smiling. It's very rare we don't get to see him smile often. He was holding that diploma and smiling, and when we got home, sitting at the dinner table, he was still wearing his cap and gown and holding his diploma. He pulled it down just slightly, and he looked at me and he said, I did good, didn't I? I said, you did better than good, brother. You knocked it out of the park. Your mom and I are so proud of you, and we love you so much. To reward you for this awesome accomplishment, we will take you anywhere you want to go in the world. Dad, I want to go see Aunt B. You're kidding me. So, Dad, I want to go see Aunt B. And in May of 2016, the emails started flying between Josh Brown and Aunt B. You see, they had stayed in touch for nearly a decade. They planned the perfect reunion. We called it the reunion tour of 2016. And we went back to Orlando, Florida in July of 2016, which was a mistake. The average temperature in Orlando, Florida in July is 478 degrees Fahrenheit. But we went back for another 8 days. Another 8 days at Disney, and on Wednesday of our reunion tour, we went to Hollywood Studios. Aunt B has been at Disney for over 25 years. We went to Hollywood Studios, Hollywood and Vine restaurant. It was lunchtime. Lunchtime, hundreds of people waiting to get in to this restaurant. Even by Disney standards, it was a lot of people. I made my way through the crowd to get to the host at the host stand. And when I got to the gentleman at the host stand, I said, 3 for lunch, please. He said, yes, sir. What name is that reservation under? I said, we don't have a reservation. He said, well, you're not getting it here. You see all the people, don't you? I said, I do. He said, it's a meet and greet day. Handy Manny is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not know who that is. But apparently he's very important. I said, we've got to get in there. We're here to see Chef B. And he said, sir, it's not happening. I said, I'll give you everything I've got in my wallet. And he said, sir, how much do you have in your wallet? He disappeared inside. He came back a few minutes later. He gave us one of those restaurant pagers with the lights on it. And he said, here's the deal. It will be 45 minutes before you get in this place. You will not get a table and you will not get to eat, but you can say hello to your friend. And I said, we'll take it. He said, I still need a name. I said, tell her it's Josh Brown and he's here for apple pancakes. He smiled as he wrote it down, and we left and we went and sat down with the other 10,000 people waiting to get in, and not 2 seconds after we sat down, this other little Disney guy shows up. He's got an earpiece. He looked like Disney's Secret Service. He came over to us and he said, are you the Apple Pancakes family? I said, we go by the Apple Pancakes gang, thank you. You must be Josh Brown. My name's Mike. It's a pleasure to meet you. You're famous around here. Please follow me. And he starts escorting us past everybody. And at first we were embarrassed by the treatment, but about halfway there we caught our stride. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about when we cross that line, as my friend Walter Bond would say, from confidence to arrogance. That razor-thin line that we cross as we get more successful, more sophisticated. We start saying things that don't make sense, like I've made it, I've arrived, I've paid my dues. That's when we know we've crossed that line from confidence to arrogance. Confidence is a beautiful thing, arrogance is not. We're walking past all of these people. When we got to the front door, everybody just disappeared. Everybody disappeared, and we walked in, and there was our old friend standing there with her arms open. And this son of mine, this boy of mine who does not show his affection, does not like people in his personal space, walked up to this woman and fell into her arms. They hugged for what felt like an hour. It was a powerful moment as a dad to see my son express himself in that way. And then my business brain kicked in. And I said, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you own a moment in time so fully and completely that it transcends special needs? Race, religion, gender, and every other label we like to slap on each other. How do you do that? How do you own this space so fully and completely that it transcends a decade and feels like yesterday? You want to take your business places it's never been? You want to take your clients, your colleagues, your family, your communities to places they've never been? It starts right here in this moment, because if you don't own it, someone else will. Ladies and gentlemen, there's always somebody that's all too willing to take what you have if you're not careful. Oh, listen, we not only ate, We spent 2.5 hours with Aunt Bee, and she told us her apple pancake story. She said, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, when you were here in 2007, I didn't know anything about autism. From that day till this, I've not stopped learning about the effects of nutrition on kids like Josh. You've made me better at what I love to do. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we always think influence is a one-way street. It's always a two-way street. Influencing and being influenced 24/7, 365 days. The sad truth is we give very little thought to whom we give that power. We give very little thought to what lingers after we leave, what lingers after we push send, what lingers after we hang up the phone or leave this moment where we engaged or didn't. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, when you were here in 2007, we didn't have a special dietary meal program for kids like Josh. After you left, we went to work. We created a new framework for what is now our special dietary meal program. And I'm happy to report, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, in 2016, we'll serve over 1 million kids like Josh. We can't thank you enough for what you've done for our business. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, this is how I train my chefs. It's the gold standard. We call it the apple pancakes experience. And I was so overwhelmed in that moment thinking I should trademark this before they do. One moment in time, ladies and gentlemen, can change your life. One moment in time can move you from where you are to someplace better. My son, the kid who wasn't supposed to graduate high school. My son, the kid who wasn't supposed to go to college, he went to college. And when he got done with college, Josh was still looking for his joy. He was still looking for that thing that made him the happiest that he's ever been. And as a family, we sat down and we said, what would make you the happiest you've ever been? And he had one answer, and it was Disney. My heart's desire is to go to work at Walt Disney World. 7 weeks ago, the Brown family packed everything they owned and moved from Nashville, Tennessee to Orlando, Florida to help that boy pursue his passion. One moment in time, ladies and gentlemen, can change your life. You never know when something's going to fall out of your mouth and land on somebody's heart. You never know when you're going to have a moment with somebody where you move them unexpectedly into another place in their life, that you deliver something that they couldn't get anywhere else because you're the only person on the planet who could deliver it. One moment in time can change your life. You see, the last thing that I know about heroes see life differently than everybody else. They see life through the lens of optimism. They see life and each other very differently than most people. See, heroes operate with supernatural vision, you see. You see, heroes see people not as they are, but as they can be. Heroes see life not as it is, but as it should be. While we were at Disney, we went to see a movie called A Bug's Life. A 3D movie. It was super cool. We got there in the middle of the day. It was a matinee. There wasn't a lot going on. We got there and we got our glasses and we were getting seated. And we noticed this other family. There was another family there. Mom and dad, 3 kids. And there was an argument going on between mom and dad. We couldn't hear what they were saying, so we moved closer. And here was the argument. Dad says, I'm not wearing those glasses. Dad says, I don't want to put those glasses on. They're going to make me look silly. And mom says, you're wearing those glasses. We're here for the children. He said, I don't want to look like a dork. My wife leaned over to me and she said he should have thought about that before he put on the mouse ears and the fanny pack. It's too late. And I think about that guy when I think about this idea of optimism. You see, optimism is that one thing. It's a skill, it's a muscle, that if we will develop it, and I'm not talking about positive thinking. Don't get me wrong here. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not talking about the people who pretend to be positive. I'm not talking about the people who ignore their problems and pretend they don't exist. I'm talking about optimism. It's a skill set. You have to learn how to be optimistic. You see, optimism is what changes things for the heroes in everyday life. They see things differently that most people don't. I learned about optimism from my first mentor in business, a guy named David. David got a hold of me at a point in my life when I needed to be gotten a hold of. You see, from age 13 to 16, my life got really ugly really fast. I was betrayed by some adults that I trusted very much, and life spiraled out of control. I complicated matters by associating myself with some bad people. I developed some bad habits, and I made a lot of really bad choices. I burned a lot of bridges, and I hurt a lot of people. By the time I was in my early 20s, I lived in my car. There was nobody left to help me. Everybody that I knew had given up on me. Sitting in my car, contemplating life. Do I stay or do I go? I was broke. I was desperate. I quit school in the 10th grade. I had no college training. My son is the first in my family to go to college. Sitting in my car, I answered a newspaper ad for a salesperson. I was broke. I was desperate. I needed money. And on the other end of the phone was a guy named David, a crusty old sales guy from South Texas. On the other end of the phone, he said, I need a salesperson, son. He said, are you willing to work hard? I said, I am. He said, will you do what I tell you to do? I said, I will. He said, I can teach you how to sell. I said, David, I have no credentials. He said, I don't care about your credentials. I care about your heart. If you're willing to work hard, I'll teach you how to do what you need to do. And I went to work for this man, and it changed my life. He taught me how to sell. He gave me a skill set that changed my life financially. Selling is the #1 profession on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. Over time, this mentor taught me how to sell. But the greatest gift he gave me was he taught me how to see. You see, David understood that broken 13-year-old kid that I was dragging around was keeping me from my true potential. And he did what leaders do. He took that storyline and he started to rewrite it. The first one in my life to take the storyline, the ugliness of that period of my life, and he started to rewrite it, and he gave me hope. You see, a great vision will always give you hope, and he gave me hope, and every day he dripped on me. Every day he pulled me a little further along, and it wasn't easy because I was all too willing to use the excuse of my past to not move forward. You see, far too many people reach in their past, and they use their past as an excuse for not doing well. They take the worst of yesterday and they use it as a reason for not moving forward, and even worse, I know people who will take their success and use it as a reason to be complacent. David worked on me every day. Every day he made me better. This boss became a friend, became a mentor, became like a second father to me. When I look in the mirror, he's one of the first faces that I see. Y'all remember the mirror from this morning, right? Oh, listen, when I look in the mirror, he's one of the first faces that I see. I'll never forget the day my hero called me and he said he had cancer. Stage 4, Kevin, it's in my throat, it's in my lungs, it's in my windpipe. Doctor says I should get a haircut, it'll be my last. He's given me 6 months to live. I said, 6 months to live, David, what are you going to do? He said, I'm moving in with my mother-in-law. It'll be the longest 6 months of my life. I said, come on, man, this is serious. He said, I know it's serious, son. I heard what the doctor said. You want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to work on me, Kevin. Lung cancer doesn't just happen. I did this. I got cocky. I got arrogant. Thought I was bulletproof. Thought the rules didn't apply to me somehow. I got away from the fundamentals of good living, and now I'm paying a price. He said, I'm going to go to work on me. I think I can beat it, the eternal optimist. I said, what can I do? He said, send me good thoughts and say a prayer if you want to. 10 years after a 6-month diagnosis, we're sitting on his patio in South Texas. He'd beaten cancer 4 times in 10 years. He had letters from 3 doctors who said the cancer's gone. We don't know where it went. He called me one day and he said, it's back. It was back for a 5th time, and it was back with a vengeance. I was living in Tennessee then. He was still in Texas. He said, I'd like to see you before I go, KB. I don't want to fight anymore. I packed in 5 minutes. I made a 14-hour trip in 12. David didn't have any sons. He had 2 daughters.